All right. Can you guys hear me okay? Yep, thank you. Um, it's funny because when I started to talk about or write down stuff about consistency, and I realized that just from my own point of view, if someone starts talking about consistency, I think to be honest, I'll shut down a little bit because it sounds boring on the surface. But kind of in the same way that, like, I read this book called The Life You've Always Wanted, and it was about spiritual disciplines. Because if you say what it's about consistency, that doesn't sound exciting. But the exciting thing is actually that's what creates for us the life that we've wanted. That's what creates for us the opportunities and the income and everything like that. So I'm talking about consistency, but it's way more exciting than that. So like I just realized that I'm like, from my own point of view, I would not always be excited by that, but actually it is. Um, so one of the things that the 5 years in a row, and I've had other strings too, but that was just my longest one, is that makes a difference there. And is I wrote down about raising your thermostat, or first of all, like thinking to yourself, what is my thermostat? Meaning, what is my level of sales weekly or whatever that is normal for me? That if I sell less than that, I feel very uncomfortable. But on the other hand, sometimes it can work in a weird way where if we have a really good week and we sell a lot more, we actually sometimes feel uncomfortable that direction too, because some people have some hangups about that and they'll think, oh, well, I sold way more than I normally do, and they tend to drop back down. Not that that's a good response, but I'm just saying that's sometimes what people will do. But I want you to think about right now, what is the level that you're comfortable at selling, and then like what you want that to be where it's comfortable. Because when you have a thermostat in your house, it doesn't just, like, if it's set at 75 degrees or 72 degrees or whatever, it doesn't just keep going off and on constantly, or that wouldn't work. It like lets the house get a little warmer than that, and then it drops down, right? And a little cooler than that. Otherwise it would be constantly turning off and on, right? But sometimes our results are a little bit like that too, where if we have a level that we're comfortable with and we're not hitting that, then we are uncomfortable if we don't like get some appointments scheduled or sell more. But also, on the other way, like we don't want to just let off the gas and take a whole vacation just because we sold more, right? I wrote down, it helps do a business plan backwards. And what I mean by that is at least when I was a new rep, which was, granted, that was a while back, but they had us do our business plan or our schedules. They had us first say, like, you put in your important things like school or whatever you have going on, and then see how many appointments you have room for, and then do your goals based on that or something. Whereas, I mean, that's one way to do that, but I think a better way that's more inspiring and causes us to stretch and challenge ourselves is to do your goals first. Like, what do I want to do? Not just what I'm capable of or what would be normal, but like your goals first of what you really want to do. And then how can I make that happen? Because you guys are really creative and you sell knives, and you realize that's not like normal what everybody else does. Like, that's different and interesting and creative. And so when you have a goal that's causes you to stretch yourself and then see how could I make that happen, and how you can make that happen might have to be like, well, I need to raise my average order size. How do I do that? Listen to audios or go field trainer, whatever, or I need to, whatever you need to do to become the type of person that you want to be to achieve that, versus then just looking at your schedule and seeing what's possible. And so I think that's kind of doing your business plan a little backwards helps, and it's more challenging, but it's also more fun and more inspiring. I also wanted to talk about, I put down, I love LOA, and LOA, you guys probably know, is law of averages. People joke about luck a lot, and especially, like, you guys aren't brand new, so you see this more in brand new reps, but sometimes in other reps too, where if someone has really great results, there's this voice in the back of their head that, well, they must have gotten lucky or something. And sometimes even when I've had great results, if I wasn't feeling super confident, I would think it's luck. But it's not luck. It's not luck, it's LOA. LOA is law of averages. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that too. And a couple things I wrote down. I found a quote from Thomas Jefferson that said, "I'm a great believer in luck. I find the harder I work, the more I have of it." I don't know if that's a true quote from him or just a fake thing the internet told me. I also put success is a matter of luck, ask any failure. And what that means is that when someone is failing at something but others are succeeding, they'll attribute the other person's success to circumstances out of their control, right? My first branch that I ran when I was a branch manager in Ukiah, my top rep from the summer, she was fired from Kmart, fired from McDonald's, like all these things. And she ended up being my top rep. And one of the other reps on my team, he had been like valedictorian in class, and he was kind of insulted. He was like, "Why is she beating me?" And I'm like, "She just works harder, man. Like, she just works harder and she wants to." The thing I love about this job is that we create our own luck. And you guys know it's just a combination of like hard work and your attitude, right? There was a psychologist, Richard Weissman, who he wrote a book called The Luck Factor, and he talked about people who consider themselves lucky or unlucky, and he did some kind of like studies about that. And he said he did an experiment to he asked people if they thought they were lucky in life or unlucky in life, and he gave them a newspaper. I know this is kind of like sounds antiquated now, but just roll with it. But he gave them the newspaper and he asked them to count how many photographs were in the newspaper. And the unlucky people who called themselves unlucky, they took about 2 minutes to count the photographs. The lucky people just took a couple seconds to count them, because the lucky people who thought they were lucky, the second page of the paper was this huge ad that said, "Stop counting, there's 43 pictures." And the people who consider themselves lucky saw that, and the people who didn't think of themselves as lucky didn't even see it, and they just it was right there and they glossed over it. So he did another one that said, "Stop counting, tell the experimenter you've seen this, you win $250." And so the unlucky people didn't even see that, and the people who thought they were lucky saw it. So I think the point there is often just like what opportunities we're looking for. And because you guys working shows, even like there's been times when I'm working next to somebody and the customer will say, like, buying things, they'll say, "Oh, how much are those?" Or, "Oh yeah, we're missing some of those," or whatever. And sometimes the person I'm working with completely ignores that, maybe because they're really stuck in their script, or maybe because, I don't know, they've had a bad day and they're getting in their head about it. But it's frustrating to, when you're working with that person, you're like, "Hey, so you're like trying to help but not interrupt." And but if they were just open to that and listening to the customer, they'd hear them that like they're totally saying stuff that are buying signs. And so I was looking at more of that research on luck, and they talked about serendipity. It's defined as a chance encounter or accident leads to a happy, sometimes life-changing conclusion. And that's the same kind of thing with a lot of inventions wouldn't have been around if not for happy accidents, right? Like microwave and x-rays and penicillin and all this stuff. That post-it notes were invented because somebody was trying to make a strong adhesive and they accidentally made a weak adhesive. And because he made a very weak adhesive, he created post-it notes, I guess. And so a lot of it, I think, is based on, we talk about attitude a lot, but it's true. It makes a big difference how we see different situations. And like they asked the unlucky, lucky people about, they gave a scenario where like, what if someone robbed a bank, you were in line and you got shot in the arm? Like, what would you consider that? And unlucky people were like, "This is terrible." And lucky people were like, "It could have been way worse." Like, now I have a chance to like be a hero. I'm gonna write a book, tell my story, all that stuff like that. I wrote down also how to create your own luck. And this is I know it's related to consistency because it's the day in, day out, work, but also I wrote down business midweek, BMW. Like, I don't know if you guys still talk about that, but we used to talk about that. And I still think that's helpful. Like, looking, what am I at midweek, making sure I have some business by the midweek. If I don't have work ahead of me, fairs and shows, appointments, whatever I'm doing, then I'm unemployed. And that's definitely out of my comfort zone. Um, like, I know I can schedule appointments, but I love to have something ahead of me at all times. Always have something scheduled ahead of me. And so I think that's important. I think the business midweek thing, someone's trying to call me. How do I send to voicemail? Okay. Am I still here? Hopefully I'm still here. Okay. Um, I wrote down use law of averages the right way, because like there was one time, and I still do some phone calls. Like, I do text messaging and emails with my clients too, but I still do phone calls with people sometimes, because sometimes that's the best way to get a hold of them too. There was one time that I made 40 calls and I set 4 appointments, which felt like a lot of work. Um, but the next day I made 15 calls and I set 9 appointments. So this is like LOA, right? Law of averages kicking in. So I realized though that when I work hard, I expect success because I've been working hard and I feel like I deserve it. I feel like LOA owes me, right? But also, if I wrote down my customer deserves to own a signature set or an ultimate set, even if I don't deserve to sell it. And I realized that, like, even if I haven't been working hard, my next customer deserves to own that, even if I don't deserve to sell it. Does that make sense? Um, but still, that was something that like I kept in mind. Um, so if you have a bad attitude about something, you can change it. Like, we are able to change our thinking. We are able to, if we don't feel like acting a certain way, we can act our way into feeling. There's studies have shown that if we stand up and put our hands on our hips and stuff, we're more confident. I mean, sometimes we just need to take a walk, stretch or whatever. Um, and there's always the people that think about working out or think about studying or think about phone time, but they don't actually do it. They're just as exhausted if they didn't actually, if they actually did it. So if you think about doing all those things, please just do them. Like, because it takes the same mental energy to actually do it than to think about it. Um, Skills help, but attitude and work just, they eat skills for breakfast. So um, I'm looking at my time. I feel like I'm kind of running out of time. How am I doing on time? Are we good? Yeah. Okay, good. Um, I know this isn't a super concrete sort of talk. It's more like about like abstract. It's more about attitude and stuff, but um, I have found these things to be very helpful because I've been doing Cutco a long time. And if I didn't do these things, I would have burnt out a long time ago. But I still love my job and I love my customers and I love learning new things, and then it's still good. So um, thanks, guys. If anyone has questions on anything, I mean, I guess we could do questions if you.
Yeah, let's go ahead and open it up for some Q&A. Anybody have some questions for Karin regarding LOA, consistency, or it could be pretty much anything. It doesn't have to be on
It could be anything. Right, it could be
those two
anything.
topics. Um, I know we heard about consistency last week from Sarah, but I felt like it would be valuable to hear it from two different perspectives. Um, and both of you had very different things to say, so I thought that was kind of
Well,
cool to
that's good.
hear it from two different, perspectives. But if you start noticing some of the same themes on our calls, it's because these are things that are like highly important to your success. So that's why we cover them over and over again. Right. So anyone have any questions for Karin while she's still here, gracing us with her presence? Mhm.
Hi, Karen. I guess I'll jump in. I have a question. I guess like what would you say have been some of your like bigger needle movers when you're looking at like your average order. Especially like this past weekend, I worked a show and I was closing a good amount of small orders. I closed a galley and I had a good number by the end of it. But like
Mhm.
thinking back on how much I could have closed if I was able to close those bigger orders, um, what are some of the needle movers and some of the things you look at, even when you know that law of averages is like on your side?
Um, I think one of the biggest things is just like making it fun for both me and the customer. So like if somebody says yes to like a galley set or something, usually I'll just go, okay, how many? And usually they laugh and say, one. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, um, but every once in a while, sometimes they'll say okay to more. Like we had, there was someone I knew that ended up selling, like they told the customer, like buy four, get one free or something on the knives. And then they ended up like going back up to like a essential set. And they did buy four, get one free on an essential set. So like, because they're doing gifts for their kids and like their vacation home or something. And so I have fun with that. I had a lady at the Folsom Quilters Guild that was buying wellness mats. That's all she was buying. She walked by and was like, "Oh, you should sell these." And I was like, "Guess what? We do." And she was buying wellness mats. And then as I'm like writing up the order, I'm like, Diana, we actually are famous for these knives. And she was like, oh, and like then she ended up buying more. But it was, and she bought a set and wellness mats. But she was just, it was so funny because I don't know, we were just joking about stuff. I joke around a lot and make it fun for them, and then we keep adding things. Is once you've got the credit card, like if you got it on your clipboard or you're holding it or whatever, like, and you can um and make it fun until they tell you to stop, until they're like, that's it, no more, stop showing me stuff. And they're laughing and you're laughing and whatever, um make it fun. Yeah, because then it's a people are happy to buy cool things they want. Like when you buy something cool that you want, you're excited and you're happy, because you're excited about it. And so like, have it a fun experience for them. And sometimes people add stuff and it's so random. And sometimes I've had days where I had a bunch of small orders too, but you can get creative with it. And and even though that like if they just bought table knives, they could get some of them free. But you make that part of the order. You're like, well, because you're buying this galley set, a lot of people think they want more than 6 table knives. Because you're getting this, you can add on 4 more table knives to your galley set and get like 2 free, or, add 5 and get 1 free or something. Um, and like it's something they qualify for. So a lot of people are excited about that. It creates some urgency that like it's better to do it now than to get it later. They're like, what if I do it later? Well, then you do buy 5, get 1 free instead of buy 4, get 2 free on that order. So stuff like that.
Yeah, that's actually really helpful. Even like just
Yeah.
maximizing it with fun stuff. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually really like that too, because I
Mhm.
think sometimes we get so caught up in our scripts or things like that, we forget like joking around and having fun with the customer. And then on top of that, just simple questions like, oh, how many would you like? Right? Then maybe they're buying like a butcher knife from you and they want
You're
it for
like,
like all
cool.
their kids, or it could be a set too, like a galley or whatever. But or, hey, just so you know, because you're getting this, you qualify for this. Like, introducing them to something else like a gadget pack or a 4-pack of table knives or whatever. And you can end up adding more stuff to the order. And if they're already doing it on payments, hey, that's only like this much more a month. So,
Right. So it's no big deal.
mhm. So
I
that's,
also like if somebody already has Cutco, I'm always like shocked they don't have something I think they should own. I'm like, because you love the scissors, right? And they're like, oh, we don't have this. You don't have the super shears, really? And I'm like, what? And I do
what?
this on service calls, but I do this at shows too. I'm like, how come you don't have that yet? And they're like, I don't know, it didn't come with it. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, I have 3 of those. How do you not have one?
Right?
My kitchen at home has 3. No, but that's funny too because I like that, being shocked that they don't have something like it just shows like, oh, that's a popular item. Now they feel
Yeah,
like left out and they're experiencing FOMO. Well, how much would that be?
right. Yeah. And you're like, oh, I'm surprised you don't have that. And they're like, I don't know. Why? And I'm like, everybody likes it. It's their favorite. Like, yeah.
Awesome. Anybody else have any questions for Karin? All right. Well,
Martin's worked with me before, so we get to
right.
work
Yeah,
together sometimes too. That's cool.
for sure. Well, thank you,
Hey,
Karin.
Randy.
He's our next speaker.
Sweet.